So this is Baruch Fleischman here, back at the Tikkun Elevator Kol Olam. Of course, I am your lift manager, and as I'm reading through this, I realize its importance lies mostly in becoming familiar with these words, getting some idea what they're talking about. We've been talking about Adam Kadmon. We're talking about the light of the Ein Sof that comes through the Ozim Chotem Peh, called Achap of Adam Kadmon, who is also called Ak. So we came down here. Let me see if I can get this on the page. The page number 23 in the Tivuk Avanos. Once again, the dark print represents the words of the Rav as told to Rabbi Chaim Vital. So we're going to read that, and we're going to also read the Tivuk Avanos, which is going to be in a lighter print. He said, V'hine adayim, still at this point, he said, Be'elu ha'oros, of these lights that we're talking about, nizgala bechem be'bechinas kol kli klal. He says, I think V'hine adayim be'elu lo nizgala, is not revealed, there's no concept of a kli, it's just light. But light doesn't mean anything by itself, because unless it has its opposite, which is something that holds it. So understand that part of what I understand from my study of Kabbalah is the creation of opposites really has a great deal to do with understanding reality. He says, Elo ha'oros ha'yotzechem min ha'chaznayim, these lights that come out of the ears, shehem bebechinas hatamim al yainim, which are the concept of these upper tamim, lo nizgala bechem bebechinas kalim, that you can't see from them that there's a concept of kalim, keder sheyesh b'kol sphere, like you would see in every sphere. Every sphere represents a light, and a kli that holds the light. The shehem gavochim, because these are so high, so nothing, ma'ulim, and it's just a tremendously pure. Ma'od b'kadeshi yizgala b'chem bebechinas kalim, so it's not possible for them to be less than what they are, so that you could see the concept of kalim. V'kafishi is boyer b'smoch, as we're going to explain as we're going forward. Shamakifim b'rapanimim ruchochim zebezeh. So this concept of light from the right side, light from the left side, are two opposites. In other words, they're lights that don't come from the same place, and therefore they're a little bit in conflict of the concept of, now we have a concept called right and left. And they're separated from each other. So they never struck each other. And so therefore we see that there's not revealed in them an aspect of a kli. So it says, V'gamda, so also know this. Ki eses spheros elu, these 10 spheros, yatsu mukusharos betachlis hiskashros, they come out bound together, ultimately bound, that is, the root is binding, v'lo nikr bechem rak shakulam hem bebechinas oz hey. Now where do we get this from? So he said, let's read this, and it's not recognized, v'lo nikr bechem. The only thing we could recognize from these letters is that there's an aspect here of the letter Hey. Let's listen to what the Tiv says. Vod sar cheteda, you also have to know Shaha'or Atzmo, the light itself. Hagam shuhu kolum eses spheros, that as we said, we know, it has 10 spheros in it. Im kol zera be'ein bo gilui. But you can't see the 10 eses spheros muchulokos, these 10 different spheros. Elo hu nirek or echad bilvad, it only looks like one light. That's it. Because these lights came out. Because they're all tied together, miyuchadim, and they're like onenesses. So that therefore they have no divisions. And now he tells you an understanding of what form is. Form is that since they're not divided in any way, so therefore they have no form, because a form means that, well, let's say like a head, a body, and legs. It's divided up. So that's a form. It could be like that with anything. So lo shayach bechem surah. V'chol hagilu sheyeshna bechem, and everything that's revealed about them, hu bezos shehem kusuras hey. The only thing we know about it is that in some way this light comes out in the form of a hey. He owes hey because she is chaver im ozen. So because if you take the letter hey, which comes out of the ear, and it's joined together with the concept of the ear, which is 58, He says that 5 and 58 comes the Geminyan Sab, comes to 63. Umetzius Hey Zeus, and now thinking about this Hey, just understanding the construction of it, he bebechinas es spheros. Within itself, it has 10 spheros, that are part of the Hey. Now he's talking about the very incipience of reality itself, is a creation of a letter that has two different forms. One is a dal and one is a vav. V'shorsham heim hey partsufim, their root is 5 partsufim, which are called Erik Anpin, Abba Ve'ima, which is also Chochma and Bina, and Zun, which is also Zer Anpin, and Malchus. Zun means Zocher V'Nuk, man and female. Notice, once again, I use the word Nuk instead of Nekeva. That seems to be what we do in Kabbalah. But you can't see the 5 spheros in this letter Hey, because there's no differentiation. The only thing we see over here is that there are 5 systems of light that come out of the ear. So that we see that there's not 10 spheros that are separated. Because ultimately they come out completely tied together. But we've already explained up above. That you could see the Hey. It was possible, let's see, see is not the right word. Recognizes the word he used. That there's a Hey recognizable there. And Metzius Os Hey Shemiz-Param Chamesh, so the concept of the Hey, which has a count of 5, Maramis Chamisha Partsufim, is a hint to the fact that there are going to be 5 systems of light in the Asmab itself, and every one of the of Atzilus, Bria, Yitzir, and Asiya, which we haven't really discussed, but we're the Rabbah is telling us the outside, he's telling the words. Shem Erik Anpin, Abba Ve'ima V'Zah, V'Nuk. So that's Zocha V'Nuk, that's Zer Anpin, and Malchus. She'elucha Partsufim Kololim as spheros, that these Partsufim have within them 10 spheros. Ki arich hu keser. So this is how you'd figure it like this. Arich stands for keser. Va'abba ve'ima heim chochma bina, or chochma bina. V'zer anpin heim chagat nai. So that's how we pronounce this. Chagat nai. That is chesed gevurah teferes. And that's a chod yisod. And then the nok is malchus. He malchus. And so here you have all these words coming up here. And so it's important to hear these words. If you like the words, if you like the concepts, you could go into this. So the concept here is these 10 specific spheros. But they're not revealed in this high place called the ear. So even these 5, I think he means the Partsufim, are not separated in any way. Elo kulam kushuros, all of them are tied together. Ba'os achas, which is the letter Hey. So as you see the Hey is a Hey. The Hey is not a Dalet and a Vav. The Hey is a Hey. So you can't see the Dalet and the Vav. That's what he's saying. Kitziuro Hey hu tzura. Tzura's Hey. So that's it, Tzura. I think there should be the word. I have a little Hey here. So I think it's just, there are a few errors in the Tiv. That's one of them. Misparam Eser, and if you count it up, if you want to break it down, you could count it up and you'll make it into 10. The Horos al Hiyosem Eser Nechlalim Behei. Does it tell you that inside of the Hey there's also a 10? As we mentioned up above, V'adayim kulim nekroyim os Hey levad, and they're all together called letter Hey. Os Hey sheyatzechem in oizim. Now this letter Hey that comes out from the ear, hagam shenechlalu bal kol ha'chamisha partsufim, and now that whereas we see that it has all of the 5 partsufim that are in them, im kol zecha be'elucha partsufim lo yatzech b'chamisha oris muchulakim. So this is his translation. Understand that these 5 partsufim, but they don't come out divided. You can't see them. El yatsa ha'or echad, but it's just one light. Bilvad shehu os hey, which is the hay. The light itself is in the form of a hay. Hay achas sheba kolulim kol ha'chamisha oros, that in that hay we have all of the other 5 lights. Amnam os hey he oilu kaminyan chamesh, so we know that the letter hey is 5 in Hebrew. Remezes ala chamisha partzufim in iskarim, and it's really a remez to the 5 partzufim that we're talking about. The ficho gam shtei ha'osios hey, so therefore the 5 letters, the gam shtei ha'osios hey, the ficho gam shtei ha'osios hey, which I guess he means the dal and the vav, shehem ha'or ha'makif, which one of them is the or makif, because as we said, from the right ear and the left ear you have 2 different kinds of light. And the right ear is the or makif, and the left ear is the or panimi. Hamarazim the chamisha partzufim. So you see, there's a remez over here to 5 partzufim. Heim einam mucholokim, but they're not divided up into 5 partzufim. Elo yatzu b'kusharim ke'echad b'asoch ahei, but they're all tied together in this hey, the canal. She'os hey atzmo, because the hey itself, remuzim ba eser spheros, there's a reference here to 10 spheros. Shehare os hey, more kevis mishtei cholokim. He said this previously, and now the Tiv is bringing it back for us. He says it's really a grafting of 2 different pieces. Achedek hachitzoni hu os dalad, the outside part is the letter dalad. V'achedek habenimi, the parts of the inside is the letter vav, kazeh. And that's what it looks like if you want to think of it in this form. That's what the Tiv says. Ba'osios dalan involved. Now the letters dalan involve oda bi'achda the misper eser. It tells you that there's a way to look at this, and you could see the origin of 10 within 5. Ba'ofen shekal the eser spheres nechlala ba'os hey. Hey mitzad Otzrot ha'ozen atzma. This is from the formation of the letter itself, the form of it. Shehi oila eser, which comes out to be 10, like we said. V'hein mitzad the gematria shel os shehi keneged hamisha. The gematria, the letter itself is 5, which will tell you about the 5 partzufim, but it could be broken down, but it's not broken down when it comes out of the ears, not yet. So he says, let me see if I can get some more room here. No, not too much more. Let me see. Move this over here. Move this over there. Okay, so now we're on number, whoa, I got some problems here. I'm trying to make some more room. There we go. Okay, so now we're over here on number Kaf Zayin. Kaf Zayin? We're going to go like that. That's going to help a lot. Okay, number Kaf Zayin. Velo ha'eses spheros bohu or panimi meruchak umhamakiv shalo herchek godol. So he said, these 10 spheros, bohu or panimi, that they come in the form of an or panimi, which is distanced mehamakiv shalo herchek godol. So there's a very long distance between these 2 lines. Batam hulifi she'im hoya yosek karovin. The reason why is because why do they start out being separate? That's his question. So he says she'im hoya yosek karovin, because if they're closer, lo hoya cholin lekablo klau, it would not be possible for any kli to hold that light. The hiyoski bohu or benimi or makim meruchakim zemezeh. So therefore we see that their situation is that they're coming from distant places from each other. Ki elu yatzim ma'ozin smolis, because one comes out from the left ear, ve'elu ma'ozin yamanis, and the other one comes out from the right ear. V'chasiva hi ki im choyim b'kurovim yoser, and the reason why is because if they were closer than that, lo choy yacholin atachtoinim, the kabbalah oris elu klal, then the lower lights would not be able to receive them at all. Now, what is he talking about? So he wants to say, like, they have to have some distance between them. He said the reason why is because maybe it sounds like the word or is going to be too powerful. Let's look again. As the spheros and iskaros, so these 10 spheros that we're talking about here, let me get this up over here. he says these 10 spheros, he says, Oros makifim meyotzim me'ozen yamid, ve'eser oros benimi meyotzim me'ozen small. So he says there's actually 10 lights coming out of each one. Lo hoya yotzim or benimi ve'or hamakiv shalachem k'shehem kurovim zelazeh. They don't come out when they're close to each other. Ela yitziasem choisim v'merchek zem zeh, but they come out from a distance, one from the other. V'hatam, the reason, shehem yotzim rechokim zeh b'zeh, that they come out one from the next, one distant from the next. U'mishum shechakli noitzer al yedechem she'oris ha'mekifim v'benimim iskarbim zeh b'zeh, because what we're trying to get is the concept of a kli. And we said the rule for making a kli, and you have to realize that this comes all the way down to us. So he says that opposites have to come together, and they strike each other, as we're going to explain as we get further into this. So since we said before that we're talking about the Av Desag, we're talking about the highest level of light that's going to come from the head of Adam Kadmon, Ak. He says, they're complete, very, very pure light. It's not possible to reach them, to understand them, only from the concept of these two opposites. One is light, and the other one is more physical, is the kli that holds the light. So they never really come together. So that they shouldn't come together and make kalim. Now, we have to understand that a little bit more. This is number Kaf Ches, and there's a Kaf Tes, and let's try to read this down. So for this, we can understand something else. What is that? The concept of creating these kalim, who because betisha shnei orus elu maki for panimi yachad zebezeh. He says, well, how do you make kalim? And I would say, without trying to get into too much, let me see. There we go. This is how people are made too. Two opposites, male and female, coming together. That's a little trouble getting this lined up, but let's keep going on. Umebein shnehem, between these two opposites, they come together. Nolad havayas kalim. This is where the reality of the creation of kalim it comes from. In havayas, the existence, v'holedes, and the birth of kalim. Naases al yedecha nitzutzos. They come from the sparks. Hayotzim and bepaulas hahakov v'betisha shalaor maki v'chabanim edezeh. Translation: the kalim come from the kalim naases, comes out of the result of the nitzutzos, the sparks. Hayotzim bepaulas hahakov, that comes from the action of striking each other. V'betisha, that's another word for striking. Shel ha'or ha'maki v'panimi zeh of these two different kinds of lights coming together. Now I'm still having trouble lining this up, so I'm going to move this over here. Now it looks better. Just let me get it lined up. So he said, so therefore when they're striking each other, this causes, these sparks cause the creation of a kli. And that's the reason why they come from a distance. He says, v'lo od, not just that. Even when you get down to the bottom, when they're coming around the chin, they never completely and totally come together. Matter of fact, there's always tension between them. So therefore the lights exist, but there's no kalim to hold them. Gamoshi is boil come as we're going to get into more in Shaar Kudim. There's another Shaar coming up called Shaar Kudim. So now this is the tib wrapping it up. He says the existence of the kalim comes about as a result of them striking each other. Shalo oz shalo or hamakiv, that is the striking of the or hamakiv, hapanimi zebazeh, and the or hapanimi zebazeh. These two lights coming from the right ear and the left ear, striking each other. But when we're talking about the lights of the ears, which is so tremendously high, he says, let me read again. Aval ba'oras ha'aznaim yotza ha'oras ha'makiv ba'banimim. The lights are so separated from each other, kashahem rachokim zem b'zeh, that they're distant from each other. Shahar ba'or ha'makiv yotza b'sad yamin shalapanim, because the makiv comes out from the right side of the face. For a panimi yotza b'sad small shalapanim, it comes out from the left side of the face. And even though we understand that they're going to come together, he says, right there at the chin, but they don't completely come together. So therefore they don't strike each other, and there's no concept of a kli. So now the Tiv wraps it up. And he says, until this point, the Rav is explained as Bechinas HaTamim Elyonim, the Tamim Elyonim, Shehim HaChelech HaElyon, Shebechinas Av Sag. So when we talk about the ears, that we're talking about this at the highest level of Sag, it's called the Av de Sag. HaYotze Me'ozen Ak, which comes out from the ear of Adam Kadmon. But Perik the Loholon, now later on we're going to see is Boyer Bechinas HaTamim, V'Hamse'im de Sag. Then we're going to talk about the middle Tamim Sag. Shehu ha'chelach emsai, which is in the middle between the upper and the lower, which is the bechinas av desag shehima oras yotzim mechoitim de'ak. And here we're going to get over to another area, which is the area of the lights that are coming from the nose, and we're going to go into that in the next year. This is Baruch Fleischman here at the Tikkun Elevator Kollel.